Morning, afternoon, or evening for the Press Corps. I'm Jeffrey Jennings, and here in the 71st conflict of the Foxhole War, it is day 101. Just about noon here at day 101, and no signs of stopping anytime soon, not for a long while, as both sides of the conflict here, the Wardens in the north and the Colonials from the south, continue to duke it out all across the front line. Total combined casualty counts coming in at 710,000 total dead as winter storms rage in the west and rain in the east. Currently, we have reports, confirmed reports of winter weather advisories issued for Feranic Coast, Lockmore, Lynn of Mercy, Stone Cradle, Oarbreaker Isles, and Fisherman's Row. That would mean that it would indicate that manpower as well as vehicles are at risk of freezing. Visibility has been impacted, and bodies of water may freeze over, allowing for new dimensions and directions for troops to navigate. So be on the lookout for that. Meanwhile, in the east, with rain, you may be at risk for getting muddy, and your encumbrance for getting on you. Encumbrance get heavier as you continue to traverse in those mud patches, including Tier 1 trenches, underdeveloped trenches where it can get real muddy real fast. But in any case, we're keeping monitor of multiple fights, including Feranic Coast, Deadlands, and really just all across the front line. But we're going to go now to PressCorps Colonial Correspondent Everett Way, live from Tempest Island, where the Colonials have seen some renewed success after losing about half of the region so far. Everett, are we coming through?
Yes, we're coming through just fine. And like you said, the Colonials in the past couple weeks of the war have been steadily losing territory. They started at the beginning of the war, at the beginning of the ceasefire, the agreement, as it were, that Colonials were to hold the territory at large of Tempest Island, all except, I believe it was Alchimio Estate. In the past couple weeks, the Wardens have pushed as far south as the border of Liar's Haven, and the past, I want to say about 12 days or so, we've seen a large push back across from the Colonials to the Iris, through the Iris, and now, much more recently, into the Rush, which is where we are now. I'm actually standing just outside of the Rush at one of the bunker bases that the Colonials have used as a staging point for this offensive. I'm standing here near some of the artillery units, near where one of the logistics checkpoints are before they start moving up. And we're seeing soldiers gear up as they head out. Spirits here are on the whole high as we are pushing towards those two bridges up towards the north. There are many, many moving pieces to this fight, and it's not really sure which particular moving piece is leading the fight, pushing the fight, etc. All in all, it's a concerted effort from all avenues of warfare here.
Tempest Island is home to a lot of crossroads in terms of bridges, Iris being one of them, but certainly the Rush as well. There are 3 entry points into Rush via bridge, if you don't count the one from the Iris south, but 3 from separate land masses altogether, I should say. And do the Colonials have any... have the Colonials secured all 3 of those bridges?
No, they have not, and that's a key point to make sure that listeners know at this point. The Rush was only very recently taken by the Colonials. They're only just now getting full supplies into that encampment, moving, like I said, from the logistics checkpoint that they have into that garrison camp itself. The next objective for the Colonial Army is to secure those bridges. Of those bridges, we're seeing combat at mainly 2 of them. The 2 on the north side, there's one directly north, and there's one towards the northwest. That is where we're seeing a majority of that conflict now.
And if the Colonials or Wardens managed... Now, you mentioned actually artillery. The Colonials utilizing artillery effectively in order to bombard the town and kind of ward the Wardens back, if it's safe to say. Have either side leveraged any other assets, any other force multipliers in an attempt to win this fight?
Yes, there have been reports from the Warden side about armored personnel carriers being used as a kind of mobile infantry support vehicle of sorts. Mainly, it has the same offensive power, if you will. It itself does not have any weaponry. It is simply a good mobile shield for infantry to load up and use the new Morden machine guns out of. So while it itself does not add to the power of any individual unit inside of there, because it is armored, the Wardens are using it rather aggressively. They're able to position themselves in places that one would not normally expect. Actually, I'm going to rescind what I just said and correct it. We are now seeing directly, not reports of, actual reports of the new Warden Scout tank on the field. I see two of them here pushing down into the heart of the rush right now with a renewed Warden infantry cover.
We had heard of them earlier. Reporter Mothbee Man, when he was reporting live from Jade Cove several days ago, that he had spotted the new scout tank. It seems that they are reaching kind of a peak.
Sorry,
but they're reaching a new level of production as we're seeing them more and more on the front line. You said you've seen two of them. Is that correct?
Yes, we're seeing two of them live on the front.
We're hearing them as well, very clearly.
Yes, they are going loud, as it were. I'm also seeing, as I am watching these scout tanks, it looks like wherever the Colonial artillery is, they are trying to target those scout tanks as best they can. If not, with the new spread that artillery has around it, they can at least target the infantry support that is around the scout tanks, escorting them, making sure there's no anti-tank activity for the Colonials to bring in. Overall, it's a very fluid fight at the moment. Colonials had the momentum. This scout tank push, however, might change that. It's escalating. If I had to give it one particular word, this fight is absolutely escalating, and we'll have to see where it goes from here.
Certainly, if the Wardens are able to push all the way down to the Iris, they can do so again. But the Colonials appear to be, leveraging their artillery quite nicely. It'll be interesting to see just how dedicated those artillery batteries will want to stick to trying to quote-unquote snipe the tanks. As you mentioned earlier, yes, such a tactic isn't quite as viable anymore because artillery now has a much wider spread, even at moderate distances, and certainly with wind and weather affecting potentially visibility. I don't think it's affecting much now, but wind can affect that as well. And the speed of these tanks, they are scout tanks. They are classified as scout tanks, so speed is one of their main strengths. So we'll see how long those artillery batteries can keep up. They might even be better served just hitting one of the bridgeheads. But regardless, have you noticed anything else in terms of how you said it was fluid, the fight at the rush? Do you think either side will have opportunities to flank?
I think it's very hard to flank, actually, in a fight like this, specifically because, as you said, there's only a few ways in, and once you secure the close side of those bridges, that's it. There's not really many other places to flank that don't also include some sort of naval landing. A naval landing of sorts requires a lot of logistics power behind it. It's not exactly a thing that any given soldier can just pick up and do. Like any rifleman could just pick up a rifle and head towards the front line. Logistics landings to open a new front is a very logistics-heavy idea, even just the effort involved in that.
Absolutely. Rarely are they successful as well, but when they are, they're usually done in a bombastic way.
Very devastating, yeah. We've seen it take, at least start to take whole regions, and we've also seen them, the activity from that kind of peter out in about 10 minutes after it lands. It's pretty hit or miss and dependent entirely on the experience of the naval forces and the force commanders at the scene.
Mm-hmm. Now we're hearing artillery being fired very close by. Is it possible to speak with one of the crewmen, or maybe even the commander, the officer in charge, or maybe even get a glimpse into their squad communications? I'm assuming they're talking, but they might be talking over squad communications. I don't know if that's possible.
That might be. I will have to ask them live on air. You'll have
That's
to
fine.
give me 1 sec as I patch through. Yeah, so I'm sitting here next to a light artillery unit, as you guys hear it over the comms right now. It is headed by, it looks like a combination of several people. We have T3C, which is a Colonial logistics faction, the Three Crowns. It seems that they are supplying the shells for this artillery cannon, which is mostly crewed by 38 SOG, is the clan. This regiment is relatively new. My understanding is it is only come up in the past several wars. Let me see if I could talk to them. 1 second. 38 SOG and this light artillery cannon piece. You are live on the air with PressCorps. Is anyone here available for a couple questions?
I'll do my best. I got like 5 voices in my head right now.
It's okay.
I'm also sort of available at the moment.
Just where are you firing on at the moment? It sounds like you guys are going pretty rapid fire here.
We're firing at Blue Man, who thinks that he can push our fucking land.
Blue Man, bud.
Blue Man being the wardens, I see. We have somebody handing me a note. Someone handing me a note saying that northeast of the rush there is a warden bunker base that they are firing on. I see that. Thank you, Chim. So, how long has this artillery piece been active? Have you guys just arrived here? Have you been pushing this front ever since? Tell me a little bit about what's going on here.
I believe it's been about an hour, hour and a half at this point.
Fuck right the pussy.
Girl.
Yeah, hour and a half seems about right.
An hour and a half here with this artillery piece. So you guys were here when the rush was destroyed and taken?
Yeah, we destroyed the garrison camp, the safe house, and a few bobs along the way.
I see. And what's been the major obstacle for your group as an artillery group here?
Honestly, probably growing pains figuring out how to efficiently load and resupply things.
Yeah, with different changes to Howard.
We've got a decent system going at the moment with 2 trucks coming in and out constantly.
I see here Lieutenant Government Bacon of T3C loading up some of your shells, and it looks like another member of that 38 SOG loading up as well.
That's correct. Unfortunately, government's comms are broken at the moment, so he can't respond.
He's deaf. We blew out his eardrums.
Artillery does do that. I'm sitting here with earplugs myself. This is a very loud artillery piece. How does this artillery piece differ from artillery in the past? I'm curious. We've noted that artillery has changed in its operation recently. How has it changed from the past?
So it's less efficient to be used as a sniping, much better as an area denial weapon. It's incredibly efficient to shoot it at infantry now, as opposed to artillery in the past.
More of a infantry suppression tool. From the studio, or for the studio, that is Captain Ladir of the 38 SOG speaking. And on the artillery piece is Officer Cadet Rilight, also of the 38 SOG group. Ladir, can you tell us what you're firing on right now, or is it the same general area that you were firing on earlier?
Yeah, so we've got some wardens pushing in to take, Iris back from us, or not Iris, the Rush back from us. They're pretty upset, so we're firing shells at their infantry as they're trying to cross the bridge.
I see. Just a few more questions. At the front, we did hear reports and spotted a few Warden scout tanks. This is the first time that we're seeing them out on the field here in Tempest Island. How does the scout tanks affect how you all are operating your artillery? Does Warden armor really affect that?
It seems so far that they have been unfazed by our bombardment. Unsure if that is a problem with the shells or if they're just very bold currently. Other than that, it's not really affecting us currently, though the effect that they're having on the front line is dramatic.
I see. And what effect is that for the front line?
Well, they're very good at infantry suppression, so our infantry is having a very hard time pushing up with those in the way.
I see. So with an artillery piece here firing near non-stop, being used as infantry suppression for the Colonials, and then the Wardens bringing in scout tanks for their own infantry suppression. From what it sounds like, this fight is stalling out, or do the Colonials still have momentum?
I'm not sure at the moment. It seems that we're doing okay, though I would say it's entirely dependent on how well we can deal with these scout tanks currently.
The fact that scout tanks are more of an up-close thing and we are ranged does give us a slight advantage in that regard, but it depends.
I see the range being a major advantage. I see.
Our disadvantage to go along with that is the major inaccuracy.
Inaccuracy, you refer to the spread and the wind affecting, especially in this rainstorm, correct?
That's correct. We constantly need forward observers recalibrating everything.
I see, and I presume that's what the captain who was just here and ran off towards the front line,
that was... is indeed what is going on.
I see.
Dude, imagine doing math constantly. It's terrifying. That's why I'm driving and they're leading.
Major BigBossTeef with a little bit of info. Yeah, not everybody is...
Oh, one moment. We need to recalibrate, I think.
That's okay. I will leave you all to it. Thank you all for your answers and humoring me here on the front. Thank you very much. That was 38 SOGs, Rilight, Major, Big Boss, BigBossTeef, and several other members of that artillery group. I'm going to step away from them as they are busy, like they said, recalibrating and such. That's a little bit of a report from the frontline artillery groups that are here at the rush. The frontline, just looking at the radio itself, still looks about the same. Colonials are holding on to the garrison camp. Logistics is able to get in, and the Wardens are able to cross the bridge. I believe the main priority for the Colonial Army is still to secure those bridges. This fight will continue in this rather fluid, unsure, unresolved state for a long time until those bridges are secured.
It really looks like an endurance test from the reports that we're getting, because for the Colonials, it's a matter of containing 3 bridgeheads at the same time simultaneously and maintaining that. Meanwhile, for the Wardens, it's going to be trying to find a flank and break through an enemy who is concertedly trying to build up their defenses with fire support constantly raining down on you. So for both sides, it looks like it'll be an endurance test on who can stay on it and keep supplied.
Absolutely. I'd say the ball is in the Warden's court as far as whether this fight goes in their favor or not. Obviously, the Colonials have their plan, and it's very clear. There are many things that the Wardens could do. Like you said, they could flank. There are many directions to flank from. They could take advantage of the waterways. The Colonials themselves are pretty dedicated to the rush, and while that's normally limiting one's strategic options isn't exactly favorable, in this case, they're holding their territory well. We'll have to see if this entire plan pays off in the next couple hours, but for right now, it seems that they know what they want to do, and they are pushing for that as hard as they can. There's not much more to report on the front. Those scout tanks are still here, pushing the front line, and Colonials and Wardens alike are trying to resolve the situation as best they can.
Well, excellent reporting, Everett. Thank you so much for your time out there, and stay safe.
Thank you very much. This is Everett signing off.
PressCorps Colonial Correspondent Everett Way, live from outside of the Rush front line there at Tempest Island. Elsewhere, all across the front line, fighting continues. Colonial forces recently losing Iron Junction Town Hall, but fighting is still prevalent just in that city block alone, just in that town block alone, as Wardens attempting to contain the regional border and the bottom thirds of the region. In Marben Hollow, fighting continues as well, as the collies attempt to punch through north of Loggerhead and towards the Spit Rocks. In Deadlands, Colonials maintaining control and reinforcing control of the plaza north of Abandoned Ward while maintaining their flank at Tarsal Pathway. And in Lockmore, Colonials have been pushed back across the regional border. The attempt to capture the southeast peninsula in Lynn of Mercy has failed apparently, and Wardens now bearing down from the north towards Westmarch. Meanwhile, collies attempting to hold the positions west of Fairmore as they angle once again towards the infamous Tomb of the First. 2 roads pincering that relic base, but 2 roads to watch over to see if the see if the Warnings will come down. Fisherman's Row, Colonial's losing control of Hangman's Court for the moment, but fighting still very much prevalent around that landmass as Warnings come in not just from Three Sisters in the north, but west and from the underbelly at Satir Stone. But the collies will be far from giving up anytime soon as manpower and materials continue to pour over the border base and into the sector. And finally, bringing us back to Jade Cove. Outside of Jade Cove, it has been a back and forth. It has not stopped, and it will continue like this until one side finally loses all their gas. Fighting now situated on the Jade Cove ramp, or just outside the Jade Cove ramp. It had been feared if the Warnings managed to push back all the way towards McCarthy Fields, but just like many other pendulum swings before it, the Wardens unable to close out and take Pleading Wharf or anything near south towards Victim. Well, as we mentioned earlier, weather stays about the same. Snow, heavy snowfall located in the western half of the Siva Valley war zone. Winter weather advisories in effect for most of the western regions, while in the east, light rain, severe storm watches present for the east, so nothing heavy as of yet. That's about all we have for the press corps right now. We might be going off the air for a little while, or rather not off the air, but not going live on the air. We might just stick to the music for a while longer as we situate ourselves. But thank you so much for all those who listen and for all those who donate just a couple minutes of time just to see what we're about. We duly appreciate your ears and your time and your attention. Well, for the press corps, I'm Jeffrey Jennings. Let's take you back to it. Jeffrey Jennings here. Twitch radio services